On behalf of the City of Yonkers Parks Department and the Untermyer Gardens Conservancy, welcome back to Untermyer Gardens. Again, we're missing having the gardens open to the public. We miss your presence in the garden. So we're going to take a quick walk around the gatehouse, or what we call the ruin garden. So here we are in the interior of the ruin garden. When we started the garden here, a little bit of excavation determined that there was so much trash and so much debris, so much glass, that we excavated all the way down to the subfoundation, about 3 feet, and brought in new soil so we could start gardening here. This garden is 1 year old, so it's at its very beginning stages, but really looks cute in spring at the moment. We're trying to plant a little less intentional down here, as if it sort of happened on its own, so we'll see how that works out over time. But right in front of me is this wonderful plant. It's Pulmonaria raspberry splash. It already needs dividing after 1 year. It's been very happy here, so we have one happy plant down here in the ruin garden. But again, there are so many different species of Pulmonaria and cultivars of Pulmonaria that you really can't go wrong. As we move into the border a little bit, I've planted a few selections of Helleborus ballardiaea. Again, there are several different cultivars that work really well. They flower for us starting in late February, sometimes that early, and all through the spring. And what I like about this particular selection is the mottled leaves with that light colored veins and the very glossy dark green. Here in front of me that I've been working on is a Tiarella called Candy Striper. Again, an early spring bloom with these wonderful flowers, and they're subtended by these heavily dissected or palm-shaped leaves with the red variegation going down through the middle. I'm not always a big fan of variegation, but these subtle tones really work in this particular garden. So here I'm looking at a combination that I sort of learned the concept from our horticulture advisor, Marco Polo Stefano, is same but different. So we're looking at two different plants here. One's a Heuchera black pearl is the cultivar. Again, there's so many different cultivars of Heuchera. Find one that makes you happy and run with it. This is a selection of a villosa Heuchera villosa, and they tend to be much happier and hot in sun, and they're very vigorous. So a really good Heuchera to work with. Next to that is Geranium maculatum Espresso. This is a selection of a native geranium. These plants are super. They have that great foliage. They flower for 6 to 7 weeks. But what makes Espresso so interesting and worthwhile to grow is this dark coffee-like foliage, and that maintains mostly through the year if it's happy. Stepping back from that, and just a big punch of color, is this Hydrangea petiolaris Miranda is the cultivar. It's a climbing hydrangea vine, 20 to 30 feet tall over time, but with this yellow edged variegation, it really looks good through the entire year. You can start to see just a few flower buds, and these will look just like your hydrangeas that you grow on a border, and will climb up this wall. So here we are in the southeast corner of the ruin garden, and one of my favorite ferns, because of this great structure it has, is Polystichum, polyblepharum. I even need to call that tassel fern sometimes so I don't get a tongue twister, but it has this very glossy foliage, very rigid sculptural-like structure, an orange rachis or midrib or petiole or leaf stem that really kind of sort of contrasts with that dark glossy green foliage. Right now it's emerging with a paler green, and that really is set off against, once again, the Geranium Espresso and the Heuchera Black Pearl that we used on the other side of the garden. Again, I like to make plants look a little unintentional, as if they moved around on their own. So crossing a path or moving around in the same garden to have repeating elements, I think really adds something to a planting that doesn't look like our hands were in it, that the plants did it on their own. And that's always sort of a basic design intent. Here next to that is a plant that I couldn't do without in dry shade conditions. It's Polygonatum, odoratum, Variegatum. Much easier Latin name to remember when it rhymes like that. but it's a Solomon seal with variegated and fairly subtle variegation along the edges of the leaves, and then hanging from each little arching stem are white flowers that are just about to open, which do add an element of intrigue and cuteness to it. But it'll colonize very well where it's happy, and again, a plant that's easy to make happy. Dry shade, and it'll grow in places where I can't get anything else to grow, and really has a nice graceful form to it, almost like it doesn't belong in dry shade. Spring is still happening here at Untermyer Gardens, and to be able to garden in a space as unique as this, amongst a garden as unique as this, is a real privilege for me. But what kind of bothers me at the moment is we can't share it with you in any other way than these virtual tours. But we do hope to bring a virtual tour to you once a week until it is safe to have you back in the garden. And I'm looking forward to that moment. In the meantime, I'll see you next week. We'll look at another spot in the garden.